had actually said on our podcast before that there's a specific department of the Chinese Communist Party at the top level that oversees the triads.
Yeah, it can be complex, but I was saying that my research found that China's Ministry of Public Security had some level of control or guidance, protection for certain triad leaders, triad organizations that in turn for their protection provide political objectives to the Chinese Communist Party. Could this connect to underground casino activity? Could it connect to political donations? Could it connect to the corruption of politicians in other democracies? I'm saying yes. You asked me where we're going. If we can get over the hurdles I've talked about, that's where we're going.
I like how the Chinese Communist Party is essentially like the super mafia that's running a protection racket on the other local mafias.
It sounds like a bold and outrageous statement, but it's the truth. Look, the journalist Jean Garneau, others have essentially said you have officials at the top that are running, providing protection and getting objectives fulfilled back. It's a client relationship, right? It's true. They are the super. I'm starting to feel the fear of saying the truth here, but they are the super mafia that is in charge of the super mafias.
It's really not surprising considering the history of the CCP.
You're right. We've talked a little bit about that before, but you can again referring to some authority. I've quoted before our former ambassador to China, David Mulrooney, saying, you cannot ignore the deep connectivity in China's history between organized crime, the United Front, and the leaders in Beijing. It's just part of their history, yes.
Well, I mean, the Communist Party rose to power in China through essentially the philosophy of kill people and take their stuff. And so they got like all of the worst people in society to join them in this killing and stealing spree to gobble up resources in China that helped them win the civil war and take over.
Sounds much like someone that would be running a protection racket pretty successfully. If we're talking about the five families in New York way back when, you rule by fear, and that's what a mob is.
So a concern I have is, it seems like the corruption is pretty widespread. And the CCP's goal is essentially to destabilize all of the Western powers. Do you think if it does come out just how widespread this is, in a way the CCP still wins because people will lose faith in the government?
That's a concern. And again, what you just said was exactly the point that was made in 60 Minutes Australia. They use, especially we're seeing it in South Pacific Islands, they use organized crime to corrupt and destabilize governments. And so there is that concern that once the population realizes this isn't just some wild conspiracy theory stuff, they do say, should I start to be concerned about where I'm paying taxes, or should I start to really doubt what I'm hearing coming out of my government? So yes, that it can be winning in various ways just by creating that distrust between democratic leaders and their constituents.
So whether the Communist Party is found out for what they're doing or not, they still win. This is what Xi Jinping calls win-win mutual cooperation.
Yeah, it's a win-win, and it's a lose-lose for anyone that cares really about freedom and truth. But how do we turn around this very depressing finding that we're coming to? Look, I take courage from the fact that a New York jury, again a couple weeks ago, convicted 3 people, including a former New York cop, for illegally acting, for sowing fear on American soil. America and Australia are showing the way. You need tough laws. We are, multicultural, diverse societies are our strength, but you need to have the proper laws to make sure that thuggish regimes aren't trying to get into our communities and sow their fear and run their protection rackets.
Well, one thing I know about the CCP is that they're very good at changing tactics. Do you think as more things are exposed, particularly how they influence elections, for example, do you think they will just somehow change tactics to a different way to achieve the same results?
They're very fluid, and I think what that is that they're intelligence agencies, as authors such as Alex Joske have written in his book Spies and Lies. Their intelligence has been, at an academic level, they're very good at getting good messaging out there, and they've been very successful. So, will they change? Yeah, I can see in real time, various some things will come up. They're becoming masters of disinformation and getting into wedge issues and playing different sides. So we can expect, certainly on the information warfare front, let's just call it what it is, that they will be very fluid, very opportunistic.
Well, speaking of wedge issues, is there any sense that, perhaps the US government is getting a little bit nervous in how it works with the Canadian government, considering how widespread Chinese influence is? Is this driving a wedge between the US and Canada?
Yeah, this is something we've talked about before, and I think I was saying that is starting to be my concern, or there's indications. Now I can tell you definitively. I've heard from Americans that were following my reports, on the PRC interference files very closely. They said it's not surprising to them. They already knew. They knew that Canadian intelligence had a deep level of concern that people in this current government, especially at the top, are not responding properly to Chinese interference, and there's a lot of concerns about why. And yes, I've been told that that people outright say it when they're in their private meetings. Is it the three eyes now? Is it even the two eyes? Some people look at the UK and say, well, they're they're facing some kind of vulnerabilities, not as bad as Canada or New Zealand, but they're not fully, you know, if we have a two eyes situation, you can just see how much that Z's tactics that have ramped up since 2012 are working.
And we really can't afford to have it then go to a one eye, because then that just draws a comparison to the Eye of Sauron, and then we're not looking good.
Well, yeah, it's not good for soft power of the United States, which has carried heavy loads and done well in a lot of cases. If everyone thinks, okay, now we have the completely divided world where you're either following the United States and doing their bidding, or you're following someone else, or you're acting like you're an independent actor when you're not. And you're right, we can't afford it right now with the Wagner groups of the world, just exploding in front of our eyes, with what could be coming down the pipe in Taiwan. We can't afford this kind of division within Western society.